Good
to
evening,
begin.
friends. The third episode of Status Single with Shree, Season 2. The wonderful, inspiring, and therefore the Women Who Inspire Me series treads strongly, fiercely, and vociferously into episode 3. I was just telling my next guest, who's going to, just be questioned right now in a few minutes, that every time I have an iconic and inspiring single woman on my show, I almost feel like a proud matriarch. And I almost feel that the movement and the community that I started building 2 years ago has now flourished, has now blossomed. And we are so proud of the diversity that 74.1 million Indian women today represent. Proudly, we own our space. 39% of the female
Yeah.
population in India is single. The lady that is sitting beside me on screen, I wish we were sitting beside each other in person. Is a woman who, if I were to borrow a line from a famous Hollywood blockbuster, had me at hello. Our eyes intersected because we are both writers. I can take some poetic liberties and licenses. Our glances intersected from across a podium. I was sitting on the podium at a CII summit in the city of our birth, Kolkata, on single parenting. And Srila Das Gupta was sitting, watching and listening. And her intrepid gaze, her distant but very, very decisive involvement, which I sensed from across the stage, endeared me to her even before we had exchanged our first hello. By the time we did, which is when I got off the stage, and Srila was in her wheelchair, and she sent word for me to come and meet her, I almost sort of knew that this was going to be the beginning of a beautiful bonhomie, sisterhood, and friendship. Ladies and gentlemen, my single sisters, and men and women who are single and watching the show, meet my next guest, Srila Das Gupta, who is a force and a name to be reckoned with in corporate India. She is the global head disability and neurodiversity for the Tata Consultancy Services, a company which is spread across 500,000 employees in 46 countries. And she is also the subject matter expert globally on diversity. Diversity, a term which is, very, very in vogue for woke corporate India, is going to be one of the things that we will dissect and talk about. But not before I take all of you on this beautiful journey with Srila. And why this series is called the Women Who Inspire Me series is just that they inspire me. And I'm sure at the end of this wonderful Adda, you will feel just the way I did when I was privileged to be a witness and to hear and record her journey. A journey, not just a journey navigating her marriage, her corporate career, her career in the NGO sector, being a lone woman living in a metropolitan city, but I think a career navigating who she is as a human being. And today, what does Srila Di, as we lovingly call her, stand for? Srila, welcome to the show. First and foremost, a warm, warm welcome.
Thank you, Srimoy. And I am extremely overwhelmed by these huge eulogies, but I'm very touched. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure entirely. As I was telling you, when because I interview single women all the time, a lot of single women talk to me as well. I have seen that, especially for divorced women or women who have fought a very perilous, difficult, complicated marriage, not all of them are as open and as sort of uninhibited in speaking about the shadows of a difficult marriage as you are. And therefore, I'm going to take you back like a hypnotherapist does a bit of past life regression. I'm going to take you back to JNU. A lot of I know a lot of when I posted about this show, I had a lot of people saying, oh, Srila from JNU, she's a wonderful person, very warm soul. We have some comments coming up on the chat saying she's a force and a name to reckon with, one of the warmest souls. But your life changed in JNU, and like many of us at that age, when we were in our early 20s, you had a torrid and a beautiful love affair with a man who later you married. And that, when you and I were having the adda, I just kind of feel that that marriage was a watershed moment in your personal history. And that's why you say that these are our personal histories. There's nothing to be ashamed of. So your husband was someone, he was a gentleman who battled a drinking problem. He was addicted to alcohol and had mental health issues. Now, both these things, as you know, right now are a national topic of debate, discussion, and deliberation, thanks to a very sad incident. And we are not going to get into Bollywood right now, but being a caregiver, being a wife, being a highly emancipated young feminist in a difficult marriage, how was it, Srila?
Okay, first I have to tell you is that I think I love it's taken me time, but I love the memories of falling in love. I think
Mm.
I was always very cynical feminist and say love doesn't happen to us.
Mm.
But it was crazy, tumultuous, torrid, and phenomenal. It was
Wow.
it was a lovely high to be on.
Mm.
And at the end of the day, I think I will say that I will not give up those years of falling in love, of being married, of then the marriage going completely downhill. And my husband, who was named Bhanu, a lot of people, if they are on the call and they know me from JNU, they would know who he is because we were
Mm.
inseparable. And it was like also as a friend to see him going downhill with his addiction, and he was a depressive alcoholic.
Mm.
So we tried going. I tried going abroad. I was on my Fulbright fellowship. Tried going to Alcoholics Anonymous, but that was a journey which I think was his personal hell, and unfortunately he died of it.
Mm.
And but then before that happened, I had to kind of break free and say that enough is enough.
Mm.
And I think that point needs to come for every woman, that if she diagnoses that there is really nothing else that can be done, or she is feeling that her freedom is being violated, who she is somebody that she's compromising with, walk out, pick up your suitcases, and just go.
Mm.
Don't kind of stay in that, because if you're living also with a depressive alcoholic, as with my case, you are also engaging with mental health, depressive mental health
Mm.
environment, which
Mm.
tells on you,
Mm.
and therefore your engagement with the external world and your internal self.
Mm. Mm.
So that is one of the things which I don't know if that answers your question. But
Srila, you were mentioning something, since we are on this very checkered sort of period in your personal history. You mentioned something which I have personally gone through, though I have never been married. I'm 42 and a half, going to be 43 in December. Is men suffering from a feeling of inadequacy when they are with a strong, successful, independent, opinionated woman, right? And I remember you telling me that when you went to the US on your Fulbright scholarship, he accompanied you, but it was really your moment of glory and pride, and your moment in the sun, so to speak.
yeah.
So tell us about this the dynamics, the power dynamics of marriage, because I think so many women giving up their careers, and we'll come back to this later when we're talking about your role and your voice in corporate India. So many women engineers, doctors, hardware engineers, astronauts, like scientists, uh, teachers, just giving up their jobs because somewhere they feel I don't want to overshadow my husband. I don't want to topple the apple cart. Tell us about that. The power play in a marriage.
Okay, I have only one thing to say: never give up your financial freedom.
Hmm.
Ever. I mean, this is my message to every woman out there, because for me, continuing to work, continuing to have my salary was my ticket to freedom, because that gave me the freedom of making my choices, of living my life by my rules, of being able to say no, by being able to pack my suitcases and walk out. And it's interesting you say that I always believed I married a feminist, but when I was there in the US, where you said that it was me. I mean, I was really the center of it all. I found my husband really struggling with that shift in identity or power balance, where he was meets Shrila's husband. Because before
Hmm.
that, in JNU, it was always that like I am,
You were his
how do I
girl.
say, yeah. So that they are not in my workplace, but in a large social milieu.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
there, even in the social milieu, that switch happened, and he started drinking even more, and got quieter and quieter. I was the one who ended up attending all the Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, because he refused to, because I had to go from class to there to meet him. He had to come
Hmm.
independently. But we
Hmm.
never managed to this thing. So I walked in, I attended all of them. I got counseling, which was good for me actually.
Yes.
So yes, just to kind of like reinforce the fact that there is a power play. You may not recognize it. Please learn to analyze it. Please do not feel uncomfortable in articulating it to yourself, because that's the only person you really need to articulate it. You don't have to shout it from the rooftops. If you
Hmm.
yourself have articulated it, yes, there's a power difference. Yes, you're feeling violated. Yes, there is something which is not making you happy, because you, my darling, are at the center of your universe.
Hmm. Hmm.
Please end that toxic relationship.
Hmm.
Beg, and
Was
if you
it
feel
easy,
yes,
Srila? I'm curious. Was it easy though? Because you also mentioned to me that you were a breadwinner at that young age. Your husband wasn't really the stable, in terms of income, he wasn't very stable. As you said, he composed brilliant poetry. He was a feminist man on paper, very intellectual, your match in that sense. But you were also taking care of a father in law who was paralyzed, a mother in law who was severely diabetic, and a brother in law who was only 15 when you got married. So you were the horse pulling the cart. So when you took this decision of ending this marriage, of leaving this man clearly who had issues, serious addiction issues, mental health issues, was there ever this moment of conflict, and also, because when women are, I think one of our roles, we just play out one role after another, daughter, then wife, then becoming a mother, right? So was that, did you ever feel, or were you made to feel guilty that you're leaving a man who is, emotionally probably vulnerable, he's not stable financially, you are the barir bow who's earning, and here you are walking out? What was the final straw?
uh, I think the final straw is something which uh, which in hindsight is sometimes very silly. It
Hmm.
can be just me putting him up uh, on a flight to go back, and he being deplaned because he was drunk, and that for
Hmm.
me was it. And I said that this can't happen again.
Hmm.
And but the thing is that by the conflicts that you're talking about, by the time I decided to walk away, I didn't care.
Hmm.
I had reached a stage that I really didn't care.
Motivation. Hmm.
Yeah, and the thing is that when I was the only earning member of the family,
Hmm.
and my husband was a neurologist, like a PhD in neurobiology. So,
Hmm.
he was like brilliant politically, very very brilliant. But as I said, leftist. uh, communist student politics, but yeah, yes, absolutely communist intellectual.
Communist
So
intellect.
said lovely things and very articulate and everything. But the thing is that firstly, maybe because we feminists really want to kind of be really very macho uh, just like pulling that horse. At never at one point at any point of time did I feel that I was being imposed upon.
Hmm.
I kind of took it for granted. Fine. I mean, nobody's earning this family. Somebody has to get the bread in.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so it never occurred to me as a pressure. Yes,
Hmm.
there was economic stretches, but because I'm addicted to work and I love to
Hmm.
work, and that was one thing I was not willing to compromise on,
Hmm.
because like some early conversations that I had with my mother-in-law, so I said I will give up everything, but that at 9 a.m. in the morning I am out of the door, and
Hmm.
you will not get me before 6 p.m. So
Hmm.
whatever needs to be done before that. After that, I am not okay.
Correct.
So yes,
Right.
unless of course there's a hospitalization case and things like that,
Hmm.
that's a different issue. But
Hmm.
that was for me a non-negotiable. Working was
Hmm.
non-negotiable.
Hmm.
So all of us, I think, we need to have non-negotiables.
Hmm. 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 So, shortly after, you walked out of this, very, very sort of tumultuous marriage, I think life dealt you another card which was hard, which was a challenge. And as I was telling you that this is something we have to talk about, Srila, autoimmune disease. In
Yeah.
2015, I developed a queer ailment, which was I couldn't stop retching. I would get up in the morning and I would start retching. So, and everybody said that, it could be acid reflux. For a year, I had no sleep. I just couldn't sleep. I would be, sitting up wide awake. So your digestive system also gets impacted if your sleep cycle is awry. And finally, after several hospitalizations, a very good doctor who was actually, heading sort of autoimmune disorders in Max Hospital, Delhi, Dr. Rath, I'm forever grateful to him. He diagnosed my condition, and I used to have severe nerve pain all across my body. It used to feel that there's like, like in Bengali, they say lonka bata, like chili paste, that kind of pain. And there was no treatment for it. I even went through depression because fibromyalgia does create depression. And when I was diagnosed, with this difficult autoimmune disorder, that's the reason, that's the time actually I also realized that in India, there's no awareness for autoimmune diseases.
True.
And be it fibromyalgia or be it lupus, which is the condition that you suffer from, or Crohn's, or so many other, autoimmune diseases which affect women. And most often, the seed of that is in an emotional situation, some kind of an emotional abuse or trauma or unhealed pain, tremendous stress and anxiety. But, we don't have support. There's no space where we can just talk about it, get the right help, go for pain therapy, which is what is prescribed in my case. And of course, your mental health also is impacted. So you were detected with stage 4 of lupus, which
Yeah.
is really, really bloody serious, as they say. How did that happen? And I mean, how did it come on? Like in my case, it was with that retching and my sleep just going off, and the depression. How was it detected? Take us along that journey.
It was detected very late because, yeah, retching did happen, a lot of swelling, a lot of pain. And one day I just collapsed. So they kind of hospitalized me, and that's how I was diagnosed in Delhi. But
Hmm.
I am under treatment at the current Fortis and previous Wockhardt Kidney Specialty Hospital here. I have an amazing doctor called Dr. Datta, who's like a nephrologist, because
Hmm.
while mine is a systemic autoimmune disease, my kidney was affected. So that was one part. But the thing is that there was also the curious me, which wanted to know why it happened. And that's when I learned that 9 out of 10 cases are women, and who actually survive mostly, unless like exceptional cases.
Hmm.
Because these women are also these macho feminist types
Yeah,
who
yeah.
hate to admit to the world that there's anything wrong.
Hmm.
So when you're talking about no support, it's also my how do you translate ahankar?
Your
My
ego, your
my
pride,
my pride
pride actually.
of just telling everybody no, I'm fine. In fact, the standing joke in the family became later on became is the moment she said she's fine, stop, like go get her hospitalized.
Hmm.
But I think that was I was in and out of hospitals for about 6 months then and later on for my hip replacement surgery, and that's a huge reckoner. Like hospital beds are places where you reflect, you actually take
Hmm.
stock of your life and you move on, and
Hmm.
and that is when I think you really learn the whole who am I thing that we do when we are very young preteens
Hmm.
comes back to you, I think, when you're very, very sick,
Hmm.
and that you are at your crossroads and you want to
Hmm.
do you want to figure out where you want to go.
Hmm.
Okay, I tend, like, when I'm doing Arda with somebody I really like, just tell me to stop whenever you need me to stop.
No,
Or
no, no, you don't have to stop. This is just fine. Keep going.
so I think uh, like it was the first time that I really came in contact with serious illness. And as you said, nobody knows about autoimmune diseases. So
No.
there were very genuine well-wishers who came and said, Cancer? I said, no, not cancer. It's, I said, oh. So, they knew it was serious, but somehow, like, I think we are much more knowledgeable about certain illnesses and autoimmune diseases. I think, Shima, we should put our heads together and write a book
Yeah,
on
yeah,
autoimmune.
absolutely. Count me in. Please count me in. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Hmm.
So that was essentially it. So it was in and out. It was like a lot of medication because it was touch and go at certain points of
Hmm.
time.
Hmm.
It also created my like it triggered my mobility, partial mobility disability, which for which I needed a surgery later on, and so on and so forth. So that was, like, I again call it like a huge part of my life,
Hmm.
which I can't wish away. So I
Hmm.
kind of carry with me. And I think if I've learned anything over life is that never sweep any part of your life under the carpet.
Hmm.
Pleasant, unpleasant, happy, Mount Everest. Carry it with you because that is who you are. It's part of your bloodstream. It's part of your adrenaline. It's part of with the way your heart beats. It's simply your identity. If I am Srila Das Gupta today, that is who I am.
Hmm. Hmm. Now, I'm going to linger on this part a little bit because I think I have some more sort of questions in my mind. Arundhati Ghosh, who's a friend of
Yeah.
yours and a dear friend of mine in Bangalore, and I hope Aru is watching. She suffered a stroke
Yes.
1.5 years ago, and she writes very movingly and very truthfully about that phase in her life, how it changed her. Losing mobility, it is not as breezy or as easy or as strong, as you make it out to be, which is why I said that, I've been writing in the creatives also that you shatter all stereotypes, I think, on women with disability, because even right now, I'm not sure if you're sitting on your wheelchair, but when I saw you, I it didn't even register that you were in a wheelchair. But it's only when I remember you requested me, Shrimoy, can you just call someone to bring my wheelchair? I was like, huh? I mean, I myself was dung, like they say in Hindi. Now tell me about that phase, Srila, because you were also, it was a long relationship, with
Yeah.
your spouse, who was a lover, a friend, a comrade, which was, ebbing. And you were almost, metamorphosing into a butterfly once again. I think we have many rebirths in one
Yeah.
lifetime. This was one moment in time for you. How was it? How was the acceptance when you realize that now I can no longer be the person who, just will walk around on my limbs? I will need help. I will have to be dependent. Did you think of old age and, oh my God, like now it's almost like having an accident, right? And your life could
Yeah.
change. Or Aru having that stroke and, having difficulty still with certain parts of her body. How was it for you?
Multiple questions. I'm going to take them one by one.
Yeah,
Yeah. So the thing is that first, re-engaging with my body,
yeah.
and I think those conversations were very, because the first I remember my first reaction was rage,
Hmm.
and because I just said that it's not fair. So there was a
Hmm.
lot of rage, but there was nobody else who could deal with it apart from me. So those internal
Yeah.
conversations were essential. Then to know that, this, just to put it flippantly, I used to love to dance.
Hmm.
Just like regular party on kind of
Yeah,
dance.
yeah, yeah,
That
yeah,
is something that I miss. But even now, I realize that I can sit in a chair and dance.
yeah.
If the party, if the music
So
is
many
on,
people do sit in a chair and
yes,
dance.
dance. Yeah. So I miss it, but then so it's coming to terms, and Shima, like, even though I'm saying that yes, I'm strong, I'm carrying it as a part of me. There are very, very dark days and very dark nights. There are nights when I don't sleep till the sun comes out. If anybody follows my poetry, there are a lot of poems which I write at 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, because I'm waiting for the light,
Hmm.
the first ray of light, because I don't get sleep. I live with demons, and those demons, uh, I have now made those demons my like fellows in the night, and I kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
like yeah, and they are there. So the thing
Hmm.
is that uh, uh, there is no point in kind of uh, uh, maybe I don't talk about it too much because it comes out in my poetry so strongly. And but the other thing is that, like, when you have near death experience, or when you've touched death, or you feel that you've touched death, I think your conversation about death also becomes much easier.
Hmm.
So the fear of getting hurt and not being not physically hurt
Yeah.
is something that I think is has been like also a fear during these COVID times. If I can just give you a small example,
Hmm.
is because I live alone, and because
Hmm.
months of no mates, nothing coming in, I always was fearful that suppose I slip and fall in the
Call.
washroom, there is not going to be anybody whom
Hmm.
I can call out to. So I would talk, like, tell my caretaker and
Hmm.
his, not wife, girlfriend. They're rocking people. So so then I just tell them that if I'm not out in 15,
Hmm.
then, like, uh, like,
Yeah.
you need to kind of
Raise an alarm.
yeah, ring the alarm. And so
Hmm.
every time I used to have a bath come out, I used to give him a call and say that I'm out. So those are little things which probably won't occur to a lot of people. But then your physical safety is in your hands.
Hmm.
And when you're talking about old age, I old age, particularly for women, the moment you hit menopause, like, your
Yeah.
very heteronormative, patriarchal, reproductive parameter kind of stops and says, "Acha, she is no longer of use in society." So you
Yeah.
are kind of wiped off the charts.
What?
You are,
Yeah.
yeah.
You're not
So
on the map. Yeah.
you are not like, I mean, I'm, like, sorry to tell all those naysayers, menopausal women have great fun having sex because we won't get pregnant. So, so the thing is that I think that, like a large part of the social, uh, uh, like, denigration
Hmm.
of women really is projected by women themselves onto their fears.
Hmm.
So, and I feel a large, I would request, if anybody has fear of growing old, I understand where that fear comes from, but it's a part of life. be prepared. And as I said, like, be prepared financially, because that is one thing. And the thing is that I had to change my life plans completely because of my illness. I had a different trajectory plan and then I shifted. It's not that I lost my skills. I just had to regroup myself and say that, okay, fine, these are the limitations that I have. What are the options that are open to me? Option of giving up work was never an option. I come from a family of very loving, uh, like very loving men who are good human beings, good men, bordering on benign patriarchy, but good human
Yeah.
beings. And they wanted to look after me. And I said, no, I don't. I can't because, and I know that, like, they're there uh, to be there as backup. But it's very important that my old age is something that I am responsible for. It's my accountability. I can't have my freedom without accountability. And the same way that one says that one can't have rights without responsibilities.
Correct.
If I want my freedom, I need to be accountable. So if I want control over my life, I have to be also accountable for uh, what I do with it, and how I kind of manage my fears. It's good to acknowledge your fears. Don't sweep them under the carpet. They're there. Please, like I just talked about my demons. So yeah, be pally with your demons. Don't let the demons kind of control
Overcome.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I was thinking of more diving into the other hat that you wear, the formidable one as the diversity lead of your organization. But I think I'm just going to take a detour in my own format. And when I watched the film Margarita with a Straw,
Right.
and the director of the film is a friend. She's also an alumnus of my school, Loreto House in Calcutta. And Shonali Bose is an out and proud single woman. She's a single mother. She's divorced as well. She's this brilliant filmmaker, as we all know. And Shonali, when I watched that film, Margarita with a Straw, I mean, I'll be honest, here, it was for the first time that I realized that I had never really thought of sexual autonomy when it came to a woman or a person with disability. I questioned my own lens of trying to understand or respect or, qualify a person with disabilities' life, suffering, their needs. Was it largely through the prism of wanting to be kind, wanting to be compassionate, and in some way looking at them as lesser because I am able, so I can help them. That scene of Kalki, and as you know, of course, that, but for the audience, the film was based on Shonali Bose's cousin Malini Chib, um, who suffers from cerebral palsy and has lived her life on a wheelchair. And it was her journey, and her tryst with discovering her sexuality, with embarking on this journey of womanhood. And whenever I've spoken to you, we've spoken like two single women friends and sisters, where we talk about men, we talk about dating, we talk about sex, we talk about flings and relationships. And both of us, I think, I mean, at least I'm not a big fan of marriage. I think it's a patriarchal institution. And of course, you have talked about not wanting to go down the forever after lane anymore. um, Tell us about the fact that you own your sexual autonomy, that you're not a bechari in on a wheelchair. You're not. I mean, from the way you dress up to your persona to you embracing your single life. You're a woman who stays alone. You earn your own keep. You can do whatever the hell you want, right? As long as you said every right comes with a responsibility, and vice versa. Tell us about that, Srila. I enjoy listening, to those stories from you.
Okay, yeah, that's many stories, but I think I want to start with the fact that a very dear friend of mine, in fact, my closest friend and I were chatting one day, and she said, Srila, there are three autonomies that women have to have. One is financial, one is sexual, and one is political.
Hmm.
So, interestingly, as you mentioned, is persons with disability, and thankfully that discourse is like recently kind of taking shape.
Hmm.
Uh, uh, but people usually brand persons with disability to be asexual in nature,
Yeah. Yeah.
because like everybody feels that they they miss, or they have a certain impairment in a certain uh, physical, visible, or non-physical, non-visible, mental, whatever kind
Hmm.
of situation, and therefore they're not. In fact, I was watching Theory of Everything the other day,
Hmm.
and there was just this one line which said that, "Oh, is he yours? I didn't realize." Like Stephen Hawking, he may have like a neurological condition, but he had three kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the thing is that, and also I think there is a deep discomfort that people
Hmm.
feel, because sexuality itself is something which is people feel. There is multiple. Yeah, I'm really, I love this conversation. Uh, there are multiple discomforts here. One is women and sexuality.
Hmm.
One is persons with disability and sexuality, because neither of them are in the, like, that nice, neat picket fence, two children type of
And
framework.
heteronormative.
Absolutely
Yeah.
heteronormative picketed, photo frame on your table
Yeah.
kind of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So any sexuality which is out of the box, where and particularly with disability, like women and sexuality is a different ball game altogether. Of course, we all know it. But when I had disability along and dealt with disability and sexuality, then I realized is people have a conflict in the way they feel about uh, people or women having sexual autonomy when they have disability,
Hmm.
is because they want to feel good and nice and kind to that person,
Hmm.
but they're so uncomfortable with the sexual entity that that forms a conflict, and they don't know how to deal with it.
Hmm. Hmm.
So those are like there's always this kind of reaction when I say that. So if everybody's asking how was your weekend and things like that, I suppose I say, yeah, good sex weekend it was. And there is a like a spark of surprise I see that a lot of people have, because they clearly, like, kind of physically look at me in the wheelchair. I know their brains are ticking and wondering, how does she do it? But as you said, I was very clear that I did not want to go into another committed relationship. uh, in any case, I'm commitment phobic. I don't know what happened to me. I went slightly sunky when I decided to marry the first time round. Like another good feminist friend of mine and I always say that we fall in lust and we make big mistakes. But so marriage is really not on the cards. But that does not mean that uh, like a woman gives up her sexual life. I mean, she's a sexual person, uh, and she carries on. I have now menopause, but which I told you is great because you don't get pregnant. And the thing is that if you have, I feel that I have it good because I have financial freedom. Touch wood, knock on wood. To be able to afford to pay for my any kind of caregiving. Even though I live alone, I do have support staff who are part time,
Hmm.
but I manage in a way that everything is provided for me. Uh, and the second is that yes, I have an active sexual life, so I have it good. I
Hmm.
don't have an unwanted male figure like haunting my place. I shut the door and I'm kind of happy
Yeah.
in
So,
my own.
I think Yeah, I at least lost you for a little bit, I think, because of bad connectivity. And you were making an important point, so I'm just going to repeat it just in case it was,
Okay.
bungled up for.
Okay.
Whereas when you said, when you were talking about a weekend that you spend, and I lost you there, but I know that was a critical point, so I'm going to request you to just repeat that again. When
Yeah.
tell us, because I missed all of that. Yeah.
Uh, okay. It's just like conversation that one has. Like, how was your weekend? And
Hmm.
suppose like I've had like I turn around and say it was a good sex weekend. And I know that there are people who look very taken aback. And there are some who actually like I know they're not wanting to be rude, but they're kind of checking me out in the wheelchair and wondering how I'm doing it. Because it cogs
Hmm.
in the wheel that I feel
Hmm.
are moving. And I know that they're figuring out the logistics. And I don't know if you got this or not, but I think a lot of the conflict of that people face in accepting women with disability or even men with disability uh, being sexual entities
Hmm.
is that internal conflict is that, oh, I want to be nice and kind,
Hmm.
but sexuality is such a taboo topic.
Hmm.
I don't know how to deal with that aspect.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that internal conflict tends to make people go completely silent about
Hmm.
disability and sexuality.
Yeah. Yeah. Also,
But
I
I'm
think you bust so many myths. For me, when I'm listening to this, Srila, it's not just about women or people with disability. Let's broaden the discussion scope. But also, a woman who is technically not, and I don't mean to demean you when I say this, but just for effect, a woman who's not conventionally young. Because this is my problem with even like popular culture and like Bollywood, which is really, it's like heteronormative, right? It's the box, right, in which we all exist, and it codifies our value judgments, etc. That we never see a film where they show physical intimacy amongst even a couple who are in their 50s. Never. They always show dutiful doting parents, the father holding the mother like this, the son dying, and the parents fighting for justice or getting closer. But I have never seen, in fact, I was watching this movie called Wife, and there the film starts with this couple who are in their 60s making like beautiful, passionate, torrid love, like, and it's roguish, it's lustful, it's passionate, and they show intimacy, they show the wrinkled skin, they show the sagging boobs, they show the man's buttocks which are not firm anymore, and this is why I loved Margarita with a Straw, because that scene where Kalki touches herself just
yes.
normalizes self pleasure for women, period. you know that it's not taboo, as you said. So I think you bust so many stereotypes, and you must tell us that story of your old JNU pals hitting on you, and I just think that's so lovely, and it's so much fun listening to that story.
Okay. I have blanked out on this one. You trigger it off, then I will tell you
I will,
which
but
one of.
which one? But do you think it is also, Srila, this myth and taboo about, maybe we don't think, because menopause, and you're talking about menopause, God, I'm so glad we didn't plan on this. We were thinking of
Yeah.
just autoimmune and the corporate
I
on.
also want to mention one thing. We talk about women or people pleasuring themselves. It has a name. It is called masturbation. Please,
Masturbation.
yeah. The thing is that I I like to call it out because I worked on adolescent reproductive health and rights for a very long time, and I found that even people who come from the public health background don't like to say the term. So please, everybody on this call, please say the word masturbation. It's a
Yeah,
technical term out there.
it is.
Okay,
It
sorry
is.
for
No,
yeah,
no, no.
but I want to make that point that people don't talk about
Well said.
masturbation.
Well said.
Masturbation is
Thank you for
normal.
putting it on the
Yes,
table.
yes. Please
Yeah.
enjoy masturbation. Yes.
Yeah. So the thing is that I'm premenopausal or perimenopausal, like they say. I've always battled with gynecological issues. I've known at 19 that I'm probably infertile. I faced a lot of discrimination at the hands of judgmental women gynecologists, which formed a part of my book, where I spoke to women who were denied abortion, single women, of course, who were judged, for their sex life, who were not treated for a urinary infection because the gynecologist kept thinking that she's acquired a VD or a gonorrhea or something. And these are in private hospitals where you're paying through your nose, literally, for treatment. But, since you talk about menopause, one of the things that I notice when I ask, older women in my family or friend circle about menopause, the two things, that I find very problematic about our dialogue on menopause. One is, oh, your skin, you lose all collagen. So it's the skin and the beauty part of it, how you look, right? And the other thing is, oh, your sex drive will go down.
What
I
rubbish.
think
Both are
yeah,
rubbish.
both
Look at
are
my
rubbish.
skin.
Yeah. I think, when you're bringing up sexual autonomy and women with disability owning desire, and the right to masturbation, the right to self pleasure, I think you're also making a very important statement about women who have menopaused and seeing them as sexual beings, not just organs to produce babies. Yeah, what would you
Yeah.
say on this?
No, I completely agree. And I think that has been my biggest battle, even when I was working on reproductive health, is that we stop talking about women's reproductive rights post menopause. After they go out of the childbearing, that 15 to 39, 49, whatever, now it's got
Now
drastic.
it's gone
But
up, yeah.
yeah, they they're no longer socially productive or required.
Mm.
And the thing is that I think a lot of us have in our personal journeys dealt with those myths, because again, like there has been a sense of discomfort of thinking that our parents have had sex.
Mm.
So I think that whole discomfort about women who are menopausal, who are in that, like maternal,
Yeah,
so-called maternal bracket. So
yeah.
again, that whole heteronormative,
Mm. Mm.
socio-cultural bracketing comes into this thing. Is how can mothers have sex?
Mm.
How can maternal, like the maternal bracket have sex?
Mm.
So
Mm. Mm.
that is the discomfort, and like that, of course, is like so underlain with varied moral tones to it.
Mm.
But it is so liberating when you realize that that is not the end of your sex drive. And fortunately, I have inherited fabulous skin from all the women in my family, and it it's okay. I think it's like life changes. I won't say that it doesn't change, because there are things that you do differently, but yes, I mean it doesn't stop.
Mm.
Your sexual entity does not stop.
Mm.
And I just want to add, like, I was interviewed like a few months back, I think in November or something, about my book of poems, where the person who interviewed me said that I'm finding it hard to align the two parts of you, one which surrenders herself in love, and the other which talks about feminist sexual autonomy. And I
Mm.
said I don't see that they are dichotomies,
Conflict,
because
yeah.
only when I have sexual autonomy will I have that ability to say that I surrender in love. I
Mm.
surrender in my lust for you, in my
Mm.
desire for you.
Mm.
I have no barriers, no social barriers holding me back, saying that what will that person think. So there are no more love games being played.
Mm.
You are your own sexual person. You own that space.
Mm.
So that itself is a huge autonomy.
Mm.
So
Do you
yes.
meet men or lovers who want to marry you, take care of you, that patriarchal lollipop that is given to women, let me take care of you, and I remember telling a man, he said, I want to take care of you. So I had told him, of course we were joking with each other, but I said, well, by the looks of it, I am doing more taking care of you. I don't see how you because we're in two different cities. You better take care of me, honey, on this call at least, because until now, I am the one taking care of you, all pun intended, So the thing is that, do you get that from men? Because I find that
Yeah.
very condescending and patronizing when they say, especially like a lot of, like, I've got this, oh, you're the only child. What will happen to you after your parents? You're such a nice girl. Let me take care of you, Do you also get that?
Not in recent years, because now I think like the men who I interact with have just who get me now,
Huh.
or maybe I'm kind of blocked out a lot. But yes, like I have had my share, and it's interesting. It's much younger men who want to take care. Maybe it's that like I want to feel good about myself
Yeah,
or whatever it is. But yes, I've had marriage proposals. I've had men who said they want to kind of take care of me. Who also said that we would be happy to share financial burden. I'm an idiot and obviously say no. But the thing but the thing is that uh, uh, yes, I think there are a lot of men who would like to feel good by extending. I'm not saying that they're bad men. I'm sure there are matches everywhere. Like now, I have matured to a point in my feminist trajectory also to say that there are certain dynamics between every individual relationship which needs to have its own internal conversation.
Hmm.
So as long as the woman is not feeling violated, and there are layers and layers to it, and
Hmm.
that's a very different conversation altogether. But I really feel that uh, when you're young, because I was 36 when I was diagnosed, then men feel that you're an easy lay if you're because it was like about 2 years between my being separated and
Hmm.
getting this thing. So that part was also there. But after I fell sick, very interestingly, there was like I mean I don't know why men felt that they had to kind of add the thing that I want to have sex with you, but I also want to marry you. I said, don't bullshit me. I only want to have sex with you. So it's interesting. Like older men, like my peers, or just a couple of years older, who've been through, who've been through their divorces and bad marriages and relationships, they don't get into that trap. They're also very happy with like, okay, no strings attached. We're all happy. So I
Hmm.
hope that answers your question.
Right. I think, we can just go on. I think, having this girly Adya, and we'll have to take over StreamYard then someday. But I'm going to talk about which I think is very important, corporate India. And
Mhm.
now, weave in the other part or the other side of you, because as I said, you do this balancing act so beautifully, where you're in a global conglomerate, so to speak. And I know, the feverish rate at which you work and travel, because I mean, I must say this on the show, that getting you is so difficult. It's almost like chasing a Bollywood celebrity, because no, and I'm not saying this patronizingly or
Yeah,
condescendingly. I say this very
I'm
proudly.
embarrassed.
Yeah, no, you're so busy, which is obvious for somebody in your position, and you maneuvering different time zones, especially during the COVID when it's all digital. Now, there are a couple of questions that I have about this space of diversity, which is becoming very lucrative, very media savvy, very publicized, very public, very, out there. And in a sense, an embodiment of our woke corporate culture, you know. So as you know that I have a community that I run of single women. You are a very, very important part and pillar of that community, where there are women who are still hiding their divorce status at work. They don't want to come out and reveal the change in their marital status at their workplace, right? There are women who are fighting tough custody battles, even domestic violence cases, but putting on the, kajal pencil compact, combing their hair, hiding their bruises and putting up that brave front. Now, when I've asked or interviewed a lot of these women that why, what is it? We spend so much of time at our workplaces, so much so that we say it's a second home now, why? The two reasons women have shared with me, and I'm going to bring you in to give us more insight on this, is they say that, we don't want to share a change in our marital status because immediately there's going to be a character assassination. It's going to become tiffin time gossip, that iski to marriage toot gayi, because my marriage was such a big thing in office, right? The whole office attended, everybody pooled money to give us a gift, so that. The other thing is they don't want to be hit on. And we've had a very, very, the Me Too movement, which has again raised its head with the Anurag Kashyap controversy and FIR, that women at the workplace are a vulnerable entity, right? Then the other thing is there are women saying that, our professional expertise is comes under the scanner, where people will say, "Arey, ye to apna family nahi, rakh pai. ये तो मैरिज ही नहीं निभा पाई. She's a difficult woman. She's झगड़ेलू. She's aggressive. She's bossy." Or the other end of the spectrum, she sleeps around. She slept her way to the top. So, as you know, I've been, the whole of last year after the launch of my fifth novel, I flung myself into the work of putting together Asia's first summit on single women. And I've shared some of my angst or, the building blocks of this. I got no funding out of corporate India, which has so many single women, Srila. But I was asked dumbass questions by, I'm sorry to say this, and I'm always angry when I say this, by diversity heads who are women, or women who led CSR saying, but if you're doing something on single women, what about married women? What about men? I said, but it's not an anti-men or anti-marriage movement that I'm leading. I'm not one of those jhande wali. That's another, they kind of, when the moment you say author activist, they think, oh my God, she's going to stand with a placard outside our office. So I feel that this diversity dialogue in India, which is emerging, companies are doing good work. There has been a lot of effort, at least in the right direction, is a complex place, is a place of compromise, sometimes in some corporations, and to a large extent, and I'm going to ask you this with relation to disability, is it simply tokenism?
Okay, there is no yes and no answer to this. The thing is that I think, as you said, that yes, diversity is now the cool thing to do. And in a way, as somebody who genuinely wants to see change, I am happy it's a cool thing because that's a good stepping stone to moving in the right direction. Whatever gets leadership to do it, whether it's your client's demand, whether it's this thing. But I have because I've been on various platforms engaging with various corporates for the last 9 years now. I find that people are on a trajectory. There are some who are giving lip service. There are some who want to do good but are struggling with the how. There are some who are genuinely walking the talk, and the if you're looking at disability per se, it's about like disability and employment has been in the global discourse for about 10 years now, and every I am very happy to say that it is slowly becoming a mainstream thing, but the whole approach to disability inclusion it comes from a space of wanting to be nice and kind. And so being from a branding space, it becomes that, oh, we are good people. And from my engagement with the person with disability is that I am helping people who are otherwise helpless, which is a completely wrong attitude. And those organizations which approach disability from a very, I mean, what I keep saying as an advocate for disability inclusion is don't hire people just because, it ticks a box. Hire somebody who matches your skill requirement. Because only then are you going to ensure that both the person with disability with those skills and your organization are going to succeed. So set everybody up for success. And that itself is going to help change things because then you disprove the fact that at the end of the day, if the corporate world is here because there's the bottom line which you cannot ignore. I mean, so it has to make business sense. But it is also up to people to be able to ensure. So if you're hiring somebody for a computer based sorry based job who has no training in that, then there is a complete mismatch. You're not going to, or somebody on financial services who has not done any financial this thing, don't do that. And this I always tell everybody, please hire basis skill match. Don't hire because somebody is in a wheelchair and you feel bad about that person. But once you have hired, commit to providing every support required so that that person is able to function optimally. Then that translates to good business sense, not karma. It doesn't earn you karma points, it earns you money.
Money.
So, bottom line is you get back your money, you do it right, you get back your money. So, and some people have caught on. I'm thankful that maybe I'm a little biased, but I love working for the Tata Group because I think they come into it from a very honest space. Because when I came over, I mean, I kind of like slipped over from one side to the other. I came in with almost a very antagonistic advocacy kind of a lens. But then when I came and engaged, I realized that the commitment was or to do something was genuine, and everybody was very honest to say, like we want to do it, but just tell us how. So I like that. I'm not saying that everybody is the same. I know a lot of organizations which are not and do lip service. I'm not saying that we've kind of like hit the right place. Very few organizations have. Like Lemon Tree Hotels, which hires persons with Down syndrome in their restaurants, or like they, I think, are a role model that
Even
I always
I think hires.
absolutely. So you have amazing small case studies which are making the difference. But you again also have, I'm not naming names, but other people who are doing it for lip service. So it makes up it just I think it's a marriage of both. Very interestingly, yesterday I was having a conversation with somebody who was asking me that why is visibility and voice of persons with disability much less as a segment compared to other diversity segments? And my thing is that because of disability and we do not fit into what is supposed to be normal, there's a social tendency to invisibilize. And the only comfort level of visibility is when you're doing something good for the community. But visibilizing somebody as an equal is is something that people rarely do. And also the voice, I think, kind of comes from there is because a lot of persons with disability require care. Persons like uh, I've been with the feminist movement for so long, so and I've also been part of the been an ally for the gay rights movement. Like in my discussion yesterday with this gentleman, I think we came to the conclusion that whatever has visible conflict or
Hmm.
hostility,
Hmm.
you automatically gain visibility and voice
Hmm.
because you're pushing back, you're
Hmm.
vocally pushing back. But
Hmm.
if you're somebody who's dependent on a caregiver and nobody's really being unkind to you, your wall of hostility is really not there. So, what are you pushing back against? You're pushing back against a very nebulous social marginalization, which is wrapped in cotton wool. And cotton wool
Hmm.
is very hard to push back against.
Correct.
And therefore, that voice is a very diffident kind of an ask instead of being a very robust uh, demand for rights.
Hmm.
So I think we've been functioning on like instinctual empathy and and a desire to empower persons with disability. We need to really move to rights and agency now,
Hmm.
and that's the space that I feel that we're just entering. And I want before, like I have another 6 years to retirement, and I really want that happens. Like when I started working on peace in the world, that is not going to happen while I live.
Hmm.
But this at least I want to see is that persons with disability as a segment are both visible and have a voice, have are able to demand for rights and have agency.
Do you have any asks of the government, Srila? Because I know the Tata Group works also sometimes very closely with the government in, in helping or in formulating a lot of policy. Like one of the things that I've consistently felt is how inaccessible our spaces are. I mean, this is something that is often discussed. And for instance, I curated a Women's Day festival at a very well known mall in Bangalore. And the stand up comedian who I had, brought on for the event was a girl who used a wheelchair. And
Mm,
what I realized is, and she had to go to the toilet very frequently.
mm,
She's a very well-known stand-up comedian in India. So proud of her that she was also one of the women who are in status single. A young woman with disability, and I realized that the way the mall was planned, the toilets for me, it seems perfectnecessarily okay. It's for one, the east end of the mall, the west end of the mall. But for
very
somebody
accessible.
who's using crutches, and or on a wheelchair, it was very, very hard for her to go from one end of the mall to the other because the event was in the amphitheater outside. The toilets were all in. So nobody had thought of, disabled people, for instance. So I think, when we're designing a hotel or an airport or like, I'll tell you, I have a knee problem. Okay, so once in a while I'm on a wheelchair when I'm traveling. And I remember once I was having my period, and at the Kolkata airport, there was another lady. And that day, suddenly on that Indigo flight, there were about 7 or 8 wheelchairs, and typically
Mm.
everybody before they boarded the flight wanted to use the restroom. What I realized is in the Kolkata airport, which is now much better than what it was when I lived in Delhi 2 years ago, and we would come and we would like be horrified to land, thinking of the airport. I think the airports also come up now. I mean, it's not as horrendous. What I realized is there's just one toilet for a disabled person. And what if at that same time, there are 20 disabled people who want to use the restroom? There's no distinction also between man and woman. It's just this huge. And I was thinking, why did they waste so much of space in making the toilet so big? They could have just had three, like make it like a ladies' toilet, like 4, 5 cubicles. I mean, these things, make one for men. Again, nobody has thought of all these things now with so much of advocacy work in the disability space, so many iconic figures who are fighting for the rights of people with disability. Do you think the government's doing enough?
Okay, this is from my personal hat, not my professional hat.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a pet peeve, and it's a thing that I think this whole invisibilization of
Hmm.
persons with disability is also because lack of access in the external and social space.
Hmm.
That the malls do not have accessible. So
Yeah.
if you want to watch a movie, a
Hmm.
lot of the movie halls do not have ramps. I am unable to use a lot of movie halls because they do not have ramps.
Hmm.
Washrooms, as you said, let me tell you, even if it was so, the size has to be a certain way because you have to be able to maneuver your wheelchair.
Okay.
So
Right.
that's a technical
Mhm. Yeah.
thing that
Yeah.
you have to have.
True.
So
Yeah.
I have no this thing about that. But keep it clean.
Hmm.
My point is that usually, if you're in an airport and you've just landed, you usually land at an airport which has a really, really unusable, unclean, unhygienic
Toilet.
washroom.
Yeah.
Yes, and also in a lot of hotels and places like that, now things have started changing. But a lot of places, you have them hidden away in one little corner next to the pantry, like
Yeah.
somewhere where you don't want people to see some
Yeah.
people with wheelchair going. Things are changing for the better,
Hmm.
but there's a long way to go. Your buses are not accessible. I have to have a personal car because and a driver because I have the means to do it.
Hmm.
But somebody like we are not going to make education accessible and hence subsequently employment accessible
Hmm.
unless we have these physical spaces made accessible. I'm not even talking about digital accessibility because I mean the privileged, unprivileged persons with uh, disability who have access, who don't have access. It's different, but just the physical space
Hmm.
of there are also it's a safety issue. There are some planes which I can't fly. One is the attitude.
Hmm.
One is the fact that they don't have ramps. So
Yeah.
these four people who are physically carrying your wheelchair down, which is terrifying.
Terrifying.
Which is absolutely
Hmm.
terrifying.
Hmm.
And and surprisingly, I think the best organized international airlines, very ironically, I have flown has been Air India, not
Oh.
Indian Airlines. Yeah, not domestically, but
Huh.
internationally. Like
Hmm.
as you said, there were 20 wheelchairs in New York. I have flown from New York to on a flight from New York to Delhi. We
Hmm.
were 100 wheelchairs.
Hmm.
Not one of the staff batted an eyelid.
Yeah.
Nobody was rude. Nobody hurried us up. We wanted to go to the washroom 20 times. There was always somebody on call.
Hmm.
This was I thought like was amazing, uh, and there have been other flights which have been very rude, and
Hmm.
but that's a different story
Yeah.
altogether. But accessibility, yes, we haven't even touched the surface. Somebody needs to wake up and just do it.
Do it.
So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and
Recently, New Zealand passed a bill.
yeah,
Of course, New Zealand has a kick-ass woman at the helm
I
of affairs.
love her. I
I
love
love
her.
her. I think I have a girl crush on her.
Yeah, yeah. I think we all
Yeah,
do.
all
Yeah.
do. Um, Recently, they passed this bill that in the workplace, you can avail of a 10-day paid leave if you are going through a domestic violence case. And there are shelters there for battered women. So the company will help you find alternate accommodation because there, women who break out of marriages don't come back to their maternal homes. Maybe the parents are in another state.
Even in India, Srimo, tell me how many places women can go back to their maternal homes after a breakup. Yeah, sorry.
Actually, one of the reasons I think, no, it's good you mentioned that because when I talk to a lot of women who are, stuck in bad marriages and, they've given up their careers or, they're doing something which is not financially making
Viable.
them solvent. Yeah. They say that, what, we'll just land up from frying pan into the fire because, we'll go back to our bapir bari or mother's home or father's home. And the next thing there'll be judgment. There'll be no privacy, no independence. We can never have a man again in our life, and they'll
Hmm.
force us to remarry. you know
Yeah.
we have to live like nuns if we move back in with our parents, and continuously that character assassination. Ki kya hua? Why
Uh,
did the marriage break up? Did he hit you? No, he was not hitting you. Then why did you take this extreme measure? Things like that. Now, the question I want to bring up, because I've got you here from the corporate world and such a towering voice at that. Do you think we do enough for women? And do you think somewhere in this whole diversity dialogue, we've adopted the cause of the LGBTQI, community? Pride marches, pride walks have become big in the corporate sphere. Even disability to a certain extent. And women's empowerment sadly has become, I think, because I remember I was talking to this very famous lingerie company in Bangalore, and they
Mm.
said, the lady there who was heading CSR said, look, I have this budget, okay? And this year, and that budget is huge, by the way, it's not a chotu motu budget, but the point is that, CSR has now become equated with women's empowerment. So, we have decided to sponsor a big fashion show on a national scale because we have, somebody like Kangana walking and Tapsi Pannu walking. So I said, that is women's empowerment. So she said, yeah, I mean, Bollywood, we need star power to sell it, right? I mean, our corporates are totally into big Bollywood stars, because we can afford them. And she said, while your cause is it's very noble, and she was a single woman herself, but she said, for me, my budget is so, like, I have to now work it out. Like, women's empowerment has gone into the fashion show. We are the title sponsor. I'm left with this much. Then I have a pride march to do, you know. So then what am I left with, So today we have paid menstrual leave, Srila. Corporate India has come a long way, I think,
Yeah.
There are women at the workplace. So many young single women, come to cities like Kolkata, Delhi, Bangalore, say Mumbai, leaving their parents, leaving the sanctuary of their childhoods to work and to earn their own keep. Some of them are breadwinners for their families, right? They put their younger brothers and sisters through
Through
their
school.
education, pay the EMI of the father, help in getting a sister or brother married or sent abroad. But do you think that we're doing enough for women's empowerment in corporate India? And why is it still such a
We
hustle
could,
for women?
yeah, I think we still have a long way to go. I think a lot of the focus is on building leadership,
Hmm.
and that's a focal area. But when you're talking about domestic violence, nobody talks about domestic violence.
Yeah.
The same way that nobody still really talks about mental health or depression.
Hmm.
So, and domestic violence during COVID times is really ratcheted up
Escalated. Yeah.
because, yeah, women have been working from home and they really have nowhere to go.
Hmm.
So, and that's a huge concern. And I think that has, at some point of time, started like a slight whisper that,
Hmm.
things might, like, we might have to look at domestic violence. But I think, like, the corporate world globally has failed women as far as domestic violence is
Hmm.
concerned. A lot of them have probably done pretty well on this prevention of sexual harassment
Hmm.
at the workplace. And that I have to say that they have. But as far as domestic violence, because it's a very private, it's considered to be
Personal.
like, don't wash your dirty linen in thing,
Public.
which also prevent women from coming and talking. Though, like, there are a lot of individual conversations that they might come and have,
Hmm. Hmm.
and but this is a conversation that one this is a Pandora's box that needs to be opened.
Hmm.
Domestic violence is something that really, really needs to be opened up,
Hmm.
and we're not doing enough. That doesn't answer your question. You're looking.
No,
I'm
no,
also
no.
looking at the watch.
No, no, I'm not at all looking at the watch. I was looking at your book, but
Okay.
I'm not looking at the watch. But what do you think? This is my last question, work related. Because we're also single women, and we are, like, at least in my community, in our community, we're always talking about women being hashtag atmanirbhar. You're saying it so vociferously that through your tumultuous marriage, through the readjustment of your life post being diagnosed with lupus, post your complex recovery after surgery, the thing is, 9 o'clock I'm at work. I'm a working independent woman, and that has helped you, live the life that you've carved out for yourself. Though the trajectory changed post your, being diagnosed with lupus. What do you think? Also because I constantly battle women, or I battle this allegation of women saying that uh, there's so much of ageism at work. And I ask you this because we spoke about ageism, in our
Mhm.
personal lives, in terms of reproductive and sexual health. What about ageism at the workplace? Companies advertising for a certain kind of professional and then not hiring somebody because they look a certain way, especially in marketing jobs, in hotel management, in airlines, in a lot of client facing roles. You still want a young woman, you still want a woman who's looks young. Even if you're 50, you should look like a 20-year-old. And last time Mona, you've heard the chat, spoke about this
Yeah.
in the television and film industry, that
Yeah.
the reason Neena Gupta spoke up when the Sarkiyak movie released was because it's not that they are not writing roles for older women or senior citizens or
Hmm.
somebody like a Surekha Sikri, but they want young looking old women. So it's the patriarchal model again.
Yeah.
So have you ever faced ageism at the workplace? Do you see it? What's the way to go?
Personally, no. But
Hmm.
the thing is that I think a lot of women who have moved into positions where they're older and there are certain skills, because yes, there are certain spaces which I agree where like the social norms are very hardcore, particularly if you have uh, like a say a receptionist job
Hmm.
in a
Correct.
hotel, or so or the media and things like that. But because I do not have knowledge on that, I don't want to comment on it. But what I do want to say is that in my experience, the older women in very successful roles are women who've done time, who've proved their worth. Maybe they've worked harder than anybody else. Maybe they've all taken their baby breaks and their elderly parent breaks and their divorce breaks and menopausal breaks and everything. But because there is that skill that they bring to the table, which again is valued by the organization. So if a woman is of value to the organization, vis-a-vis the skill that she brings to the table, there is still hope because that is still recognized.
Okay.
So I think, at 54, when I relook at how we feminists need to reposition our discourse,
Hmm.
I think it is time that we turned it around and we came into it from a position of power,
Power.
and because we do have negotiation skills.
Hmm.
we
Hmm.
we can change it instead of saying that we are victims of a system which is not allowing that change.
Hmm.
We should step in there and say that, dude, enough is enough. We are
Hmm.
not taking this shit anymore. This is how we're going to make that change. That conversation is probably going to be your next symposium conversation, which I
Right.
hope we have very soon, because
Of
I think
course.
we need to take the reins and go with it, because we've done time. Yeah,
You've
it's
done time.
enough. Yeah, we've done
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
need to change the wheel around now. It's
So the
our wheel
reason
of
I was
fortune. Yes.
in our Wheel of Fortune, the reason I was looking here and there was because we've come to the last phase of our Adda, which I think is a very beautiful phase. And I'm going to be holding up Srila's Three Children. Murder at the Mela. There's
Quite.
Murder on the Quai. And there is my favorite, the book that I'm going to start reading first because, I'm a poetess, a closet poetess. Like I say, I'm a closet romantic. When people meet me, they're like, you're so, like Cutter, you're so outspoken and matter of fact. And I said, well, I'm a rebel romantic. So, so I'm going to read out a few lines from a beautiful poem which I had marked out this afternoon. When I had already started devouring Sreela's books. So, what is so interesting about Sreela is this is something that I've discovered is she's also an avid poetess. And I think, as she said, a lot of the sleepless nights, a lot of the tossing and turning and gazing at the moon and, the inner like shadows of her mind, I think are revealed in her poetry, which some of us who are connected to her on Facebook are privy to. But she's also a wonderful murder mystery writer. So I find
That
this
is fun.
extremely interesting. Yeah. So, the poetry, the writing of murder mysteries, and something which Srila started during the lockdown, which was an extremely important initiative. It's called Srila's Adda, and Adda, as you know, in Bengali means gupshup, right? And it means, general, chatter. Was a food catering service, a home chef food catering service, which she started actually for helping out the aged parents of her near and dear ones who were actually facing the heat of social distancing. And really, there was nobody they could look towards. So that's going to be the final leg of our Adda. But before that, a few lines. Um, I am a great sucker for pain. Okay, so
Aren't we all? We're the
we
bloody
all
masochists, man.
yeah. So the book is Orchids on a Mango Tree. It has a beautiful sepia photograph, and the poem that I'm choosing is called Heartbreak. We knew, you and I, the day it died. We avoided each other's eye. We looked to the ceiling fan, the potted plant in the corner, the television screen, lest we see the truth. There were days when we found the connect through sheer habit. The extraordinary film, the first rains, the political protest, the new corner restaurant serving world cuisine. The shared laughter was manic, desperately making it last. But it did not, and the silence was fraught. For we knew, you and I. How do you do this? How do you juggle so many balls of so many sizes in so many skies? How do you
This
do it?
poem is is my breakup poem.
Selective.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think I need to keep doing a lot of things, and like being alone kind of helps my creative side. So poetry is something that I always say I have no control over. Poetry controls me because it comes from deep within. It has to, when it comes to me, it has to be there. Even if it's 3 in the morning, I'm kind of putting it down on my phone.
Yeah,
Murder mysteries I write because it's just fun.
yeah.
And cooking I do because it's another stress buster. Murder mysteries, I'm writing my fourth one now. So and that's just happiness. I write cozy mysteries. I don't write gory mysteries because I write for my 75 plus relatives. So so yeah, so they are my audience.
Uh,
Uh, so
you mentioned something to me, and I think as we are coming to the close of this Adda, you said I started Srila's Adda because it was a way out of my darkness, because I was approaching a very dark stage. And since we've put so many, we've busted so many myths, we've called out so many uncomfortable truths. I think mental health for women, especially single women who live alone, either like you, completely by themselves, or they are, hardworking, struggling single mothers taking care of children, or women like me who take care of or live with aging parents, and my sister who is 11. I was speaking to another guest who's going to be on in October, who's a breast cancer survivor and a caregiver to a family with cancer survivors and a corporate honcho like yourself, Rakhi Lalwani. She said to me that, Shrimoy, sometimes there's just nobody for us because we are always being strong for others. We're always the hero, be it at work or be it with our families. And caregiving is an emotional exercise. It's a physically daunting and emotionally challenging, pursuit, right? Caring for yourself, being responsible for your safety, like even for you going to the toilet, informing your security guard, having that at the back of the mind that if I fall, he has to come, break open the door, help me out, rush me to the hospital. A lot of women, Srila, have battled with mental health challenges during the lockdown. Have you?
Oh, yes. Where do you think all my poem comes from? It's a lot of darkness. I'm very fortunate that, like, I grumble about working 12 to 14 hours a day, but I think it's also a savior because once I shut down my laptop, that's when really living alone during COVID
It hits
times,
you.
it really hits you because the silence, the complete silence, the inability, and because I am part of the vulnerable population, I can't step out,
Hmm.
and that becomes so important, and that's when I found that I was like sliding down a very dark slippery path.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
when a friend of mine said that, my parents are exhausted with cooking, they're both 75
Hmm.
plus, and I said, don't worry about it. I'll just send food. I'm cooking every morning for myself. And then, it's just spread by word of mouth. And maybe it's like, that all of us like to do good, and it's an ego thing or whatever it is. But it saved me, I feel,
Hmm.
because I feel that engagement with the external world by being able to do something. A pre lupus, I would have gone to the Sundarbans.
Correct.
I can't do that anymore.
Hmm.
This is my Sundarbans,
Hmm.
without which that dark tunnel does not see the end of the light. This was the light at the end of the tunnel for me.
Hmm.
It's not
Hmm.
that there are no other tunnels. Tonight
Right.
might be one rabbit hole I go
Hmm.
down
Yeah.
under. But I also want to put here is when you mention mental health, people don't talk about mental health. Please talk about mental health.
Yeah.
Please
Yeah.
talk about the fact that you're not okay.
Hmm.
Please talk about the fact that you're feeling unhappy and depressed. Please talk to people about the fact that you're going through a dark place. Please seek help if you need. Just that, like, do that for yourself.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
You owe yourself that much. I think that's
No, I think this is why I said, to end on this note for me also is important because women, I think we're sometimes so consumed. I had another single woman friend of mine who lives with her parents. She said, she was going down a dark rabbit hole, and she said, I can't talk about it to my parents because as it is, I'm coming out of
you
a
worry.
bad marriage. They'll be
Yeah.
petrified. And also, during this lockdown, Srila, I was so, for me, it was the moment of reckoning when my mother's older sister, first cousin, who's in her 70s, my Mashi, she spoke about seeking counseling because of depression which has set in with her old age. She was never, I mean, and she said, do you know, we have I mean, she has a family history of depression. Of course, I do too because of Baba. But she said, my mother has gone through severe clinical depression. She was under treatment. My sister is also facing the shadows, and I have been going for counseling for some time. And I asked her that, have you shared this with your spouse? My Mesho with she has two daughters. I said, have you shared it with the two Didis? And she said, no, they are both of them are independent. One of her daughters is single. She's a divorced lady who is working in Bangalore. The other daughter is a teacher, married. She said that they have busy lives and they are literally struggling now, with the salary cuts. One of the daughters in Bangalore is self-employed. So I don't want to. So, women have this thing that we don't want to share our troubles because we're always, like a little wary that are we burdening somebody? Are my parents going to be worried if I tell them that I wake up sad almost every day? I can't be happy. Just, there's something that's gone wrong.
Yeah. And a health seeking behavior amongst women, even if it's physical health, is also very low on the radar.
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm so glad, that we brought up mental health. How has the lockdown been for you? Any new learnings? Anything that you'd like to say to your community of single women? As I keep saying, and there's a reason I keep, repeating these figures: 74.1 million, ladies and gentlemen. We seem to be in denial of this figure, because I think we are still a country where we worship goddesses in their married mother form. So we expect the daughters to go down that path, and women in general, as Srila said, are like, I think, there's a line in one of my books, Sita's Curse, where I said, I'm constantly at war with my womb, you know. So is my womb my destiny and my fate? So, have there been any new learnings for you during the lockdown, coping mechanisms, and something that you'd like to say as an icon and as an inspiring woman, not just on the show, but for the community, your community and the single woman community, which includes women and men like you?
So first, for the community of persons with disability, I think one thing that it's done is that I have learned to be confident that uh, I can do it on my own. There used to be a certain fear about physical dependency when I grow older and needier physically, but I think I can do it. I mean, this lockdown has taught me strategies of how to figure out ways in which to cope.
Hmm. Hmm.
For all single women out there, I think I mean, when Shimoi told me that what is a nomenclature for yourself that you would say is, I chose freedom junkie because I
Hmm.
think for me, freedom is something which I cannot compromise on. So be unabashed, be who you are. Don't let, as I said, that it is time we turn the wheel, and like we sit at the wheel. I mean, let nobody else, let us like not even go into the consideration of the fact that we can't change things. We can change things, and if we are 74% people, you think we can't make change? Of course we can make change.
Hmm.
But all of us need to first have that even as a single woman, yes, it's like just managing every facet, like from income tax filing to income earning. It's all you. But
Yeah.
then you realize that you can do it. It's just a matter of like figuring out like how you do it. It just treat it like a business plan, just treat it like a program design strategy. We all do it. It's a life strategy. Just design one for yourself. Everybody has to have a different way of doing it. Just do it. And in fact, because you are like, I mean, you talked about it. There was a poem I'd written. I don't know if I have time, but
You do,
if
please. You must. You must. In fact, I think we do this thing which Kamladi is to kind of inspired us to do. Like she inspires us in so many ways. Where I was wanting to shake hands with my speakers, and she said, "No, we should hug." So, because we are
yes,
at the end of our show, and which will, of course, end with your beautiful words, your poem that you've written for us. But before that, Srila, a big, big, warm, and affectionate hug to you on not just my behalf, but on the behalf of all our, viewers. We've got a fantastic audience midweek listening to you, absorbing everything that you've said, and looking up to you. So thank you for being who you are and inspiring us, which is why, like I've called the series The Women Who Inspire Me. I'm going to let the last word be Shrila's. So before I end, and my with my heart overflowing with gratitude, let me just make all of you block your calendars for the next episode, which is the fourth and final episode in the month of September, because we have 4 shows in a month of Status Single with Shree season 2, which is with my friend, my artistic comrade, writer, director, editor of the Daily Eye, and a crusader in the Me Too movement, all the way from Mumbai, Vinta Nanda, who, as along with Tanushri Datta, she flagged off the Me Too movement in India by speaking about Alok Nath molesting her years ago. And she's fought a tough legal battle. And Vinta, I think, stands as a champion for gender equality at the workplace, which is a very, very critical topic of discussion, and the safety of women, and taking it, to the courts so that we fight these women in a court of law, and we're not just naming and shaming them in social media. And she's on the 27th, which is coming Sunday at 6:30 p.m. But before we let Srila go and end this beautiful Adda, where we've had a lot of laughs, a lot of introspective moments, and many, many powerful, I think, milestones and I think moments to just ponder about later. A wonderful poem. Srila, thank you once again. I know how much you must have postponed international meetings and calls to be with Shree. So thank you for the honor.
No, I think this is equally important. This is being in conversation with you is actually very satisfying because it's such a large part of who I am. So thank you for kind of reaching out and saying this, because I usually don't get a chance to kind of talk about this part of me. So I'm like very happy, and I enjoy chatting with you all the time. So as Srimoy just said, yes, I wrote this for everybody here, for all the single women, the non-single women, people, every woman out there. So in fact, it's called I Am Every Woman.
I am every woman, yes.
I am every woman with strength in my veins, compassion in my conscience, conversation and silence. I am every woman with toil in my sweat as I collect water from the well and carry stones for my daily wage. I am every woman with tears and fears, but a voice that will speak of achievements and violations and strive for peace. I am every woman who is a shield maiden, fierce in her protection of those less fortunate, who will win battles and then heal the ravages. I am every woman who shall love her work, her home, her people, but will learn to love herself, not up on a pedestal, but acknowledge her power and yet rejoice in laughter, celebrating milestones, gathering remembrances, picking up pieces, to make a memory board which will pass through her dreams and her friendships, to write this limitless story from the beginning of time to every dystopian imagination, for I am every woman.
Wow. Thank you. There's a song I love and I love dancing to it. I'm every woman. It's all in me. Right?
Yeah,
So
yes.
on that wonderfully high, intoxicating note, a mood set by Srila. Let's hope, Srila, that the community, the movement, and the feminist movement at large, of which we are all, like islands in the stream. We are all currents, merging into that Mahakumbh or Mahashamudra, like they say, of feminist history in the making. Let's hope we can be agents of change.
We will be.
We will be. We are out and proud single women. And for a lot of us asking, how do we join the community? You can find us on Facebook, Status Single. It has my photograph very proudly holding the book which began the movement, Status Single, as the cover photo. So not difficult to spot at all. And looking forward to connecting with more single sisters from all across the globe. And all my love and gratitude, Srila. Look after yourself.
Likewise.
Good. Yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, do block your calendar for 27 September. We are back for the 4th episode with writer, director, producer, Me Too Crusader, Vinta Nanda at 6:30 p.m. on Sunday. Good night and stay safe.